guys, welcome back. We are now on chapters 4 and 5 of David Walliams' Codename Bananas. Now remember to pay close attention so that you can answer the questions in complete sentences. Make sure you start with a capital, end with a period, all that good stuff. And pay attention so that you can tell us about the story. Let's get started with chapters 4 and 5. Chapter 4, Blowing Raspberries. All those in the crowd looked around to spot who exactly this gorilla was so excited to see. Eric was painfully shy. Such was his embarrassment at being stared at as he blushed redder than a tomato. Eric gave a little wave back to his friend. Then the crowd parted to let the boy go up to the front. Gertrude shimmied down the rope with ease and lolloped over to Eric. He put his hand up against the metal bars. "Be careful!" came a shout from the crowd. "Gorillas are dangerous!" came another. "It will rip your arm off quicker than you can say Jack Sprat," warned a third. The gorilla followed the boy's lead. Gently she placed her hand up against the bars from the inside. Now the palms of her hands were just touching. Eric smiled and Gertrude smiled back. Seeing her big smiley smile made him chuckle, and Gertrude hooted with laughter too. "Ha ha! Hee-haw! Hee-haw!" When the boy stuck his tongue out at her, then the gorilla stuck her tongue out at him. There was a ripple of laughter through the crowd. Hearing them, Eric felt flustered and took a step back. "Go on, boy," someone prompted. "Don't stop now," urged another. "This is worth the price of admission alone," remarked a third. The boy took a deep breath and tried to pull all these strangers out of his mind. Summoning all his courage, he stepped towards the cage again. Gertrude smiled at him, her eyes twinkling. Eric smiled back. The gorilla's smiles were infectious. Today the boy was determined to try and go one further, to teach Gertrude a new trick. So Eric did something that always made him chuckle. He blew a raspberry. There were tuts and murmurs of disapproval from the grown-ups. Tut, tut, tut. Clearly they were unimpressed with his childish humor, but the gorilla was not. Gertrude looked puzzled for a moment, then she pursed her lips and blew. But no sound came out. Egging her to try again, the boy slowly pursed his lips, pushed his tongue forward, and blew. Tut, tut, tut. Looking at Eric the entire time for encouragement, the gorilla copied him. Once again, she pursed her lips and pushed her tongue even further forward. This time, like a raspberry-blowing champion, Gertrude blew the loudest, longest raspberry the world had ever known. Success! Despite now having his face covered in gorilla spittle, the boy couldn't help but laugh. The stern-faced crowd began to chuckle too. Ho, ho, ho! Well played, boy! The boy is a marvel with animals. This pair should be on stage. Feeling 10 feet tall now, Eric was wondering if there was something else he could do. Could these raspberries be blown into something resembling a tune? There was only one way to find out. The boy didn't know many songs. One he often sang in school assembly, and had, in fact, sung that very morning, was Rule Britannia. So, replaying the tune in his head, he began raspberrying the notes of the chorus. Eric then fell silent in the hope that Gertrude would follow his lead. The gorilla tilted her head and looked at the boy as if he was barmy. Undeterred by this, Eric persisted. The boy repeated himself. Gertrude tilted her head to the side. Then a mischievous thought flashed across her eyes, and she pursed her lips together and pushed her tongue forward. A long, low raspberry came out, once again covering the boy with gorilla spittle. "Good luck with that one, lad," snorted a voice from behind. "Next you'll be teaching it to play the piano. Or dance for the Royal Ballet. Ha 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 ha." Eric could sense people ebbing away, but he was sure it was worth one more try. This time the most wondrous thing happened. Gertrude joined in. The little boy and his great ape were blowing raspberries to the tune of Rule Britannia. Eric kept eye contact with Gertrude and nodded his head so she would keep time. He was pretty sure that she didn't know the song. Why would she? but she was picking it up very quickly. Soon, those that had shuffled away raced back to catch a glimpse of the show. More and more people joined until there was a huge crowd gathered around the cage. Eric was concentrating so much on teaching the tune that he managed to put them entirely out of his mind, focusing on Gertrude. The pair reached the end of the chorus. One last big blooming raspberry. Instantly, the crowd broke into wild applause. More! More! Encore! Press another! The boy turned round because of the fuss. His face was now as red as a London bus. Well, Then at the back of the crowd he heard a voice, an angry voice, a voice he knew only too well, shouting his name. Eric! Chapter 5. Granny Spittle. Eric! The voice yelled again. Now the boy blushed redder than a postbox. The crowd looked round to see who this person was with the incredibly loud voice. Good afternoon, Grandma, replied the boy weakly. Don't you good afternoon me, little boy. You are in almighty trouble. I ordered you to come straight home after school. But did you? Oh, no! You had to come here to the zoo again, didn't you? There was no answer to that. Eric was busted. The old lady batted the crowd out of the way with her ear trumpet. Bish! Ow! Bosh! Oof! Bosh! Arr! Look at you, child! She exclaimed, spotting her grandson was covered in gorilla spittle. Your face is filthy! Then the old lady did something Eric and all the children of all the world loathed. She spit on her handkerchief and began furiously rubbing away at his face. Now Eric was covered in granny spittle instead of gorilla spittle. The boy wasn't sure which was worse. Here's a picture of gorilla spittle versus granny spittle. As if it wasn't punishment enough, Grandma yanked him by one of his sticky-out ears. Come with me, she demanded. Oh, I bet this was all your Uncle Sid's idea. That man is always filling your head with silly ideas. Uncle Sid had nothing to do with it, lied Eric. What did you say? Demanded the old lady, cupping the trumpet to her ear. Uncle Sid had nothing to do with it. Grandma stared at the boy. Bread and dripping, she barked. I bet there's another blooming raid tonight, as soon as it gets dark, which, she said, looking up at the sky, is any moment now. With her free hand, Grandma hacked through the crowd, and her ear trumpet, as if it were a machete, slashing through the jungle. Bish! Ouch! Bash! Oof! Bosh! Not again! Such was the commotion that more and more people began to gather. Visitors, zookeepers, and a stiff-looking man who was immaculately dressed in the morning suit, complete with top hat. He tried to weave his way through the crowds. Please, please! Some decal one, please! He exclaimed. His voice was so achingly posh that his R's came out as W's. Calm down, madam, please. What did you say? She shouted. I said calm down. All right. No need to shout. Are you a little hard of hearing, madam? Asked the man, spotting the ear trumpet. 5:15, replied Grandma, checking her watch. Who are you anyway? She added, putting the trumpet to her ear. The man was taken aback by her tone. He spoke directly into the end of the trumpet. I am Sir Frederick Frown. Frederick? The old lady scoffed. What kind of name is that? Frederick. It is a perfectly normal name for a gentleman. I think it's Frederick, hissed Eric, still wincing from the pain of having his ear pulled. He runs the zoo. You are right, boy. Frederick. And I am the zoo's director general. The what? She demanded. Director general. Director general? What is a director general? He is the director general, Grandma, said Eric. How many times have I told you? Do you need to be told? Bawled Frown. Director general. There's no need to shout, dear, she shouted. I must politely ask you to leave the premises. The premises? She asked. Yes, the premises, with haste. Don't you worry, we're going. The old lady marched off. On each of her steps, Gertrude blew a raspberry, making it seem like the old lady was blowing off. The crowd roared with laughter. Oh, My goodness gracious, exclaimed Sir Frederick, who has taught my gorilla to do that? Was it you, big-eared boy? He barked nose to nose with Eric. Yes, sir, he confessed. I was just trying to cheer up my friend after all the bombing last night. She was rocking backwards and forwards, and I was worried about her. So you taught her how to blow a raspberry? Yes, sir, replied the boy sorrowfully. This is a zoo, not a circus, thundered Frown. I couldn't agree more, snapped Grandma. You need to have a talk with the boy's great-uncle. He works here at the zoo, Sidney Pratt. Pratt? No, Pratt. Grandma had dropped the zookeeper into a massive pile of elephant dew, which was, by staggering coincidence, is exactly where Sid already was. However, Eric could hear the familiar clinking, clanking, and clunking of the old man's tin legs in the distance. Clink, clink, clunk. On spotting Sid, the boy shook his head as if to say, Run! Sadly, no running was not the old man's strong point. Do you know this boy, Pratt? Demanded Frown. Eric shook his head. No, lied the man. He's your great-nephew, Sidney! Exclaimed Grandma. I knew you were daft, but I didn't know you were this daft. Oh, yes, I do know, then, said Sid. Yes or no? Pressed Frown. A bit of both. No, I didn't know him before he was born, but now I do, yes. I tell my grandson time and time again there's a war on. It's not safe. He needs to come straight home from school, began Grandma. But oh no, Sidney Pratt has other ideas. Wants the boy to be a zookeeper, just like him, shoveling doodads all day. I bet he even sneaks the boy in here for free. Frown frowned. Free? Is this true? Sid looked at Eric. The boy shook his head again, but the old man knew the game was up. Yes, it is true. I mean true. My little Eric loves the animals, you see, and they love him. Sidney Pratt, wait for me in the office. You two, leave the zoo now. You what? Barked Grandma, pushing the trumpet closer to her ear. Leave! There's no need to shout. And don't worry, we're going. I wouldn't come back to this stinky old place if you paid me, huffed Grandma, yanking Eric's sticky-out ear. She'd made it stick out even further. Ow! Exclaimed Eric as he was hauled away. He stole a look back at Sid and then at Gertrude. The gorilla was sitting in her cage, having watched the entire scene. Although she could not speak human, Gertrude had clearly understood much of what had happened. The boy was sad, so she was sad too. The gorilla put her hand up to the cage. It was clear she didn't want her friend to go. Hee-haw! She cried after him, offering a little wave goodbye. Eric waved back, just before he was hauled out of sight by his ear. Ow! And that will do it for chapters 4 and 5 of Codename Bananas. Now make sure you go and answer your questions with complete sentences, do the activities, and then make sure you click submit. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow.